John, Malik says hi. Oh my gosh. I just said that so backwards.
Can I say hi to Gabby? Hi, Gabby.
All right, everyone here, say hi to everyone at home.
Hi.
Okay, everyone has said hi now, okay? Okay. We are starting our recording. Wherever you want. Hey, John and Eric, that's not nice. What's up, Maddie?
How many kids are in class?
11.
Whoa,
Well, not currently. There's a few out of class, but there's 11 here at school today. So, anyways, we're going to get started with reading. We have to finish our story. We're going to practice a radar question together. We're going to just review a little bit, and then today you will have your vocab quiz and your comprehension quiz. Do not start those until I let you go because I do not like one of the comprehension quiz questions, and we're going to do it together. So I don't want you to, I'm going to give everyone that free for 20% of the quiz. So do not start it like right now or something. But regardless, we have to finish our, girls, move it. Come on. Why don't you get a textbook and just leave your computer charging? We are going to finish our story. So remember, the volcano was officially erupting, was not going good. Andy was running the farthest away he could from the volcano. I got to find it in my own book where we were. Remember, a volcano could travel at up to 100 miles an hour. And they were only 12 miles away. That is such a short amount of time. So we are going to start on line 64 on page 193. This time, the scientists knew they had no time to evacuate. They raced for the back of the building, the farthest they could get away from the erupting monster. They waited, panting, sweating. Andy could stand it no longer. He went back to the front door. All he saw was black, complete black. From the rain, the dark clouds, the ash fall. The sound was terrifying, like a wall of rock a mile high racing down at breakneck speed. I could die, he thought. All my friends could die. He watched and he watched. His eyes glued to a row of lights on an airstrip that pointed towards the volcano. So an airstrip is like a runway that airplanes take off of, so it's lighted by lights. So it's like just a row of lights is what it is, essentially. I figured as long as I could see the lights, the pyroclastic flow hadn't reached us. If the lights went out, I had about 20 seconds to run to the back of the building. Maybe that would be enough protection. So remember, we talked about this yesterday. He went to the back. They're going to the back of the building because that's just the farthest place away from the volcano. Then the air and sky seemed to lighten just a shade. The pyroclastic flow hadn't reached the base. Andy and his friends checked the instruments. Everything was flatlining. All the monitoring stations had been destroyed, except for one. A station on the base. All right, so I want you to look at the page with all the picture page. Remember, pictures are what? Fiction or nonfiction? Nonfiction, that's something real. That's a real life photo. And this says, June 12th, 1991, eruption of Mount Pinatubo viewed from Clark's Air Base. So that is just a photo. You can see the tiny little buildings on the bottom of it, and you can see how high up the smoke and stuff goes. So why do you think the author chose to include this full image picture here? All our other pictures were just like, half page, kind of a little bit. Gabby raised her hand first. Why do you think the author decided to make it this whole photo, Gabby?
To show how humongous and dangerous it was.
Right. By putting this big photo in, it's literally letting us see all the way at the bottom to all the way how big it is. Having this big photo is giving us a lot of emphasis, right? Like it's letting us see how big of a deal it was. If it was a smaller photo, maybe we wouldn't have been able to see the tiny buildings and all the way how high it is up into the sky. So it's just a little bit for effect. So, how do you think Andy was feeling on this page? Andy, our guy from the VDAP, how's he feeling on this page, Isabel?
Terrified.
Terrified. What else? What's another adjective? How else could we describe him feeling? Eric?
Scared out of his mind.
Scared. Gabby just said scared and nervous. Ethan?
Nervous.
Nervous. John? Right. So I'm glad John just said, well, he is also kind of being brave here because, he's literally standing watching a volcano. So when I think about how Andy's feeling specifically on this page, when he realizes that there's no time to evacuate, like he has that moment of like, oh, snap, there's no time for me to go anywhere. That means I could die or my friends could die. And he's like, I only have 20 seconds to move. So he definitely is scared and he's nervous, but he still is glued to watching the volcano. He still wants to see what's happening because that's what his life revolves around, right? That is his career. His career is helping people stay safe and understanding volcanoes. So even though he could die, he still is glued to finding out as much information as possible. Madeline?
Also, he might be like worried, kind of.
Yeah, definitely worried. Malik?
His heart is probably racing super fast.
Right. His heart is probably racing. He's probably sweating. Sometimes when you're really, really nervous or worried, you might be sweating. His face might be a little bit red. Or sometimes the opposite happens to people and they might feel really, really cold. Either one of those he might be feeling. All right, turn the page. We are on our final page of our beautiful story. Oh, wait. Let me move it on my screen, too, in case someone's using it at home. All right. Final page. The volcanologists quickly grabbed what they could, piled into trucks, and tore off. That is, until they merged with hordes of evacuating Filipinos. It was a huge, slow-moving traffic jam of everybody with water buffalo strolling out of town, says Andy. We were going crazy with the delay, but at least we were headed away from the volcano. But Andy and the other volcanologists and the villagers managed to escape with their lives. So even though the eruption is mainly over, that doesn't mean they're trying to hang out and stick around, right? There's still probably some after effects, still smoke, still ash and stuff. So the main volcano, the big event has ended, but they still need to leave. And they go to leave, and now all these other people, remember, not a very developed country, all these people that don't have cars, they're moving with animals, they're stuck in a traffic jam. But all these people manage to, live, so that's a plus. The eruption of Mount Pinatubo was the second largest eruption in the 20th century. A few hundred people died, most in buildings that later collapsed under the weight of rain-soaked ash. But more than 20,000 lives were saved. We got it right, Andy said. We questioned ourselves and doubted ourselves as things unfolded, but we got it right. All right. And here is just a photo, another photo, and you can see that it's a newspaper. I feel like there aren't a ton of these around anymore, but you buy a newspaper from one of these things, and the newspaper says Mount Pinatubo showers Clark, and it says, this ash-covered news box on Clark Air Base tells the story of the headline. So, what the heck is Andy talking about when he says we got it right? Got what right? What is he talking about when he says we got it right? What's he talking about, John?
He's talking about, we got it right, the time is going to happen, and it is going to explode in the end.
Right, to get everyone evacuated. Remember yesterday, the people on the airbase, the people in charge, were debating so bad. They could not decide, do we spend all this money and get all these people evacuated and then nothing happens and we waste all this money? Or do we not do anything and people die? Well, what did they decide to do? They decided to spend the money and evacuate. And was it for a good reason?
Yeah.
Yes. And it said people did die, which is extremely sad. But it said most people died underneath, once again, not super developed buildings. So people would be in their homes, and then the roofs got so heavy with the ash and the things that fell that they collapsed. So they didn't necessarily die because they were swept away in a volcano, but because of the weight of the building, and then it fell on them. So if these people the VDAP wouldn't have been studying all their instruments, the seismographs, been really studying this volcano, they wouldn't have evacuated people and way more people would have passed away. So he's saying they got it right, meaning they made the right choice to get people out of there. Eric.
I just wanted to say that you can see some of those newspaper boxes in cities still.
Yeah, there still are newspaper boxes. There used to be way more. But yeah, so did anyone predict for earlier? I don't remember what we said from day one if the volcano was going to erupt. I definitely already knew what was going to happen, so I don't remember who made what prediction. But if you did think that it was going to go off, you were correct because it did go off. So once again, let's talk about how was this arranged again? Mrs. Kneifel just cannot remember. How was this story arranged? How did the author set this up? Someone I haven't talked to today. Alicia, how was this story set up?
In order?
In order of what? Time. Yeah, in order how it happens. What are those big words? What's those big words called? Eric?
Chronological order.
Chronological, or Ethan said the other one. He typed it into the chat. Sequential order. Remember, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Remember, there were lots of dates in here. We started on, I'm trying to think what date we even started on.
June 8th.
May 28th was our first date, technically. May 28th was our first date we saw. Then the eruption was on June 12th. So we spent about 2 weeks of dates. We saw words like after, then, before. All of those show us sequential time. That this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Malik, you have a question? Comment?
I was about to say that there was some dialogue in here too.
Yes, there was dialogue in here. And remind me again, remember, this is a narrative nonfiction, which is what? I'm going to come back to that dialogue in a second. What does narrative nonfiction mean, John?
Narrative nonfiction means that it's real, but it's like a narrator's song.
Yes, it is a real story. It is nonfiction. This really happened, but it is told like a story. It is not just June 12th, 1991. Volcano erupted. That is not what it is. Zoe, I hope you're paying attention over there. It is not just facts. It is told like a story, which makes it a narrative. And the author adds dialogue. What is the point of dialogue? If things are in quotations, the dialogue, what does that mean essentially? That someone actually what? If something's in a quote, what does that mean? Bree?
They talk.
Yeah, someone is talking, but this is past tense, meaning someone actually said that one time, right? That was someone's real words. So why did the author decide to add the dialogue to this story? Just for fun? No. Why did the author decide to add that dialogue, John? To add details. The quotes really help us understand the worry and the difficult decision that all the people in charge had to make, right? Like, literally, Andy, the VDAP guy's thoughts was literally, I could die. Like, that adds a lot of drama element and a lot of, extra to the story by having that. So they are just trying to add a lot to our story. Now, someone remind me, this story had a good section where they provided us additional information. Can you please find the page where they gave us additional information that was related to our story, but not part of our story? Where was that, Phoebe? Page 188. Dun, 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 dun. And what was that called again? It's at the top of the page, but what is it called when a story gives us
sidebar.
additional information? Zoe, can you say it here too? No, that's at the beginning. There was a forward at the story, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Malik said it. It's a sidebar. It gives us additional information about the story. It is set apart. And what did this sidebar give us additional information about? Eric?
Wasn't it about
Well, why don't you look at it? Page 188. Someone tell me, what was this
Looking for
sidebar
lumps.
about? What, Malik?
Looking for lumps.
Yes, it was about the lava domes that come out in a volcano. So on the previous page, on 187, we read about a lava dome on Mount Pinatubo. And the author could have just continued on. Okay, there's a lava dome. Guess what? Did any of us know what a lava dome was? No, it was a word we read. But then the author decided to put that extra information here in our sidebar, which we know, extra information about our story, but not necessarily related to the story. Decided to give us that extra information to teach us more about what a lava dome specifically is. So it's separate from the text just to give us more general information. And dun, 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 Miss Zoe brought up the foreword. Someone tell me, what page was the foreword on? And how do we know it's the foreword? Madeline, do you know what page the foreword was on?
I'm pretty sure the page with the forward on was like before the story.
So it was on the first page of the story. So it was 184, but it's before the story officially happens. So yeah, it's before the story officially happens. And how do we know that it's not officially part of the story? How do we know that it's the forward, Zoe? But there's a certain visual thing that I can see it and I know it's the forward. Phoebe? It's in italics. Remember, the foreword is somehow set apart from the rest of the story. Normally it's in italics. In this one, it's in italics. And like Zoe said, it's giving us a little bit of background information. This specific foreword is telling us how the VDAP was formed, okay? It's telling us, why this thing was even made. Because if we just started with May 28th and then we heard about the VDAP somewhere in the middle of the story, we wouldn't know what that means. That's why that foreword gave us some extra information about things we didn't even know. So a foreword gives us extra information, but so does a sidebar as well. Okay? And then I need someone to remind me, what were all those fancy little words called that we talked about? Lots of. There was dormancy, groundwater, Aida tribe, the Kandu, volcanologist, pyroclastic flows. What were those words? Shanty towns, typhoon, pumice. Thank you, Gabby. Well, close. Not contrast area, but content area words. Someone remind me, what are content area words? Good job, Ethan. Remind me, what does it mean if you're a content area word? Phoebe has her hand up. Right, it's a specific subject the word is related to, because all the words have to do with reading, right? If we're reading the word, well, it's a word we read. But a word like shantytown would be specific, girls, to social studies, because those aren't words that we necessarily read every day, but it's specific to social studies. Guess what? Pumice, I would never read that in science normally, or anywhere but science normally, because, that's the glassy lava. So guess what? That's a science content area word. Content area words are words that are specific to content area subjects. Our content areas are social studies, science, and what's our other one that I did not list yet? Math. That would be our third content area. Dun, 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 dun. All right. We are going to do a radar question together. So, friends here, I need you at your desk. Friends here, I need you looking at the screen. I'm going to share it. Instead of writing it today, we're going to type it, okay? So I need everyone at their desk, and I need you looking at my screen. We are going to do a radar question together. Hold on. You guys can see my giant to-do list. Dun, dun, dun.
Is the radar question on the questions?
Yeah, it's the third one. So you can read it if you want. It, on like the past once the thing is over, you know. We are going to answer the radar question together. What details explain why the decision to evacuate was so difficult to make? So, together, we're going to answer that. Why was the decision to evacuate so difficult to make? You need that, Abby. What are you doing? So, what is the first step of radar? Oh, wait, I got to share my tab. Sorry. The first step of radar is what, Ethan? No, I want to share. Why is this not sharing? Hold on, time out. I need to share my screen. It's not sharing.
Is it on the selection quiz?
No, it's just right here. We're just going to answer it together as a review before the selection quiz. This is just review. So someone raise their hand and tell me what's the first step of radar? Zoe. Restate the question. So the question, once again, what details explain why the decision to evacuate was difficult to make? Would someone like to restate this question for me? Tell me, what should I say? What should I say? John, what should I say? Anyone? Ethan?
In our story, they had to make it was hard to make a decision of whether to evacuate or not.
All right, I'm going to add a few things to that. So in our story, eruptions and the science of saving lives, there was a what type of decision being made? A what type? A hard decision being made. There was a hard decision being made. Period. It was a hard decision to make because what? What is step 2 of radar? Step 2 of radar, the A. Just was almost going to say it. What is step 2 of radar? Phoebe. Answer in your own words. Would anyone like to answer in our own words? First off, we need to know what the decision was and why was it hard to make? Gabby.
It was hard to make because they didn't know if the volcano was actually going to erupt or not.
Right. It was a hard decision to make because, let's say, the people in charge did not know if the volcano was actually going to erupt or not. And what did that mean? What did it mean? What was the difference if it erupted or not? What was the difference if it erupted or not, John?
The difference was if it erupted, then they would have to spend both, and then it would be worth money to evacuate it. But if it wasn't worth money, and then they'd just be wasting thousands of dollars.
Right. Remember, it cost an extreme amount of money to evacuate. So they didn't know if it was going to erupt or not, which meant it. Let's find a quote now. Somewhere in here, I know we had a quote about how much it would cost. Which meant it. All right. So let's go with what John said, and then we'll find a quote. So far we have in our story, eruptions and the science of saving lives. There was a hard decision being made. That was step 1, restating the question. Step 2, answer in your own words. It was a hard decision to make because the people in charge did not know if the volcano was actually going to erupt or not, which meant the evacuation could be for nothing, period. Now, if I want everyone to look on page, what, Malik?
It said that it would be 14 million or 14,000.
Which page?
It's on page 186.
186.
Evacuating
Evacuating 14,000 people and $1 million of equipment would be a huge challenge and a huge burden to their military families. All right, so there would be a great quote to add. So, in our story, Eruptions and the Science of Saving Lives, there was a hard decision to make. It was a hard decision to make because the people in charge did not know if the volcano was actually going to erupt or not, which meant, that says education. That's not the right word I want. The evacuation could be for nothing. On page 186, it states, quote, evacuating 14. This, remember, I put it in a quote, which means by putting it in a quote, I can type exactly what the book says because I put it in a quote. And I even said on page 186, it states, I'm telling you what page to look at. I put it in quotes, 14,000 people and millions of dollars of equipment would be a huge challenge and a huge burden to the military and their families. Period. End quote. So there is our textual evidence. So we have answering in our own words. We have text evidence. We've restated the question. So now we can probably add a little bit more detail and then we can wrap it up. So let's read what we have so far. In our story, eruption. Is it eruption or eruptions? Nope, it's just eruption. Eruption and the science of saving lives. There was a hard decision being made. It was a hard decision to make because the people in charge did not know if the volcano was actually going to erupt or not, which meant the evacuation could be for nothing. On page 186, it states, evacuating 14,000 people and millions of dollars of equipment would be a huge challenge and a huge burden to the military and their families. What else could I add here? What's another detail I could say before we wrap it up? We could talk about, did they make it lightly? Did they make it in one day? Did they think about the decision? Did only one person make the decision? Did many people make the decision? What could we say about the decision itself, maybe, John?
It said that many people had to think about it.
All right. We can add that as a detail. Many people had to come together to make the decision, period. So that's a little bit of detail. But are we done? No, because we still have to do something. First off, let's see how many sentences we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. We already have 5 sentences, so we already have about a paragraph, but we're still not done. We have to do something first. What do we need to do, Eric?
We have to wrap it.
We have to wrap it up. Does anyone have a way to wrap it up? Remember, when we wrap things up, we are essentially restating the question again, just in a different way. We are ending it. We have to signify that we are ending it for people. Does anyone have a way that they would like to end this lovely paragraph for us? How could we end this radar question? Abby, stop spinning. This is not playtime. How could we end this? Someone besides John, because I've talked to John a lot today, and I don't want to talk to him anymore during reading. Malik, I've talked to you a lot too. No Malik, no John. I've talked to them a lot. Someone else, I want your help. How can we end this? Remember, the original question was, well, I should look it up because I already put it up. The original question was, what details explain why the decision to evacuate was difficult to make? Ethan, tell me, how could we end this?
In conclusion, the decision was a hard decision to make because it was a risk. It was a risk of money.
We could just say a big risk.
Yeah.
No matter what, it was a big risk, right? Because it was a risk to spend money, or it was a risk of people's lives, right? Perfect. And by saying in conclusion, we're already letting people know that it's the end, right? Like, in conclusion means we're done. So that's a good way to end it. So let's read the entire thing together. If you answered a question like this, wow, I would just die. This is 6 sentences. We used radar. It took us about 10 minutes. No big deal. Radar takes time. So in the story, Eruptions and the Science of Saving Lives, there was a hard decision being made. It was a hard decision to make because the people in charge did not know if the volcano was actually going to erupt or not, which meant the evacuation could be for nothing. On page 186, it states, evacuating 14,000 people and millions of dollars of equipment would be a huge challenge and a huge burden to military and their families. Many people had to come together to make this decision. In conclusion, the decision was a hard decision to make because it was a big risk no matter what. Fabulous. That's a great answer. If you answered that, I'd be so happy. I'd die. So, I don't want to die either. Fabulous practice, everyone. Does anyone have any questions over our story in general today? Going once, going twice? No? If not, I need you to hop onto HMH to our quiz, the Comprehension Quiz, because there's one I would like to do with you because I don't like the question. I disagree with it, but, Mrs. Kneifel can't edit the quiz, so guess what? We're just going to do it together and call that one a day, and you get a free 20%. So, I just don't like the question, and that happens.
What question?
Number 5. I do not like question number 5. So, please go to question number 5 on the Comprehension Quiz because I disagree with it. Oh, I guess I could share my screen. Number 5. Please go to number 5. I am recording, Zoe. We are way past if I hadn't been recording, Zoe. We've been doing this for 37 minutes. I hope I've been recording. Silly. Don't forget, friends at home and friends here, the end of the 9 weeks is the 17th. If you have not yet earned your AR points, you need to be working on that.
I'm trying to get to my article.
So question 5, I do not like because I feel like the book contradicts itself. At the beginning of the story, when we're reading about this narrative nonfiction, the prepare to read page, it literally talks about how this is in sequential order. And throughout the whole story, we found different ways that this story was told in order. And that would be the answer I would pick for this. Because the question is, how is the passage organized? That's the question. So if Mrs. Kneifel was taking this quiz herself, I would pick B. It tells the events the scientists faced in the order they occurred, right? So they occurred is sequential order, right? Because that's what we talked about. But for some reason, this, our lovely series likes to contradict ourselves, and they want the answer to be C. It explains the problems that scientists experienced and how they solved them, which is technically true as well, but I still feel like B is a better answer. So I'm giving you a free point. The answer for 5 is C, okay? C. Please put C for number 5. What? I can help you in a minute, okay? So the answer for C is 5. So you have 20% of the quiz correct. You are going to do the other 4 on your own. Remember, you can use the story for the whole thing. Remember, choose the best answer possible. Use your story. Really think about the questions. Think about what we have talked about over the past 4 days. And then after you finish this quiz, remember, 5 is C. 5 is C. After you finish this quiz on your Google Classroom, hopefully if I posted it correctly, we'll see if it's posted yet. It might not be posted yet.
Under which classroom?
Reading. We're in reading class. On reading Google Classroom, your vocabulary quiz is already posted over 8 vocabulary words. And you are free to, right there, vocabulary quiz, module 2, or module 3, week 1, number 2. You are free to do that after your comprehension quiz. Both of these need to be done today sometime. Reading RTI is not for 20 minutes, so you probably have time to get them done now. If you don't know, please just get them done sometime today. Okay? Anyone have any questions? If you people have a question at home, feel free to email me. I will try to get back to my computer as soon as possible because I know all of you guys are at home. If any of you decide to do NWEA anytime today, make sure you email me and let me know. Mrs. Kneifel, I'm going to get on it. That way I can confirm you, okay? Madeline, what's up?
I got all of mine done, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you should be completely done. So you don't have to do that NWEA thing.
Okay.
Unless Mrs. Aiko contacts you, but I think you're done. So you should be fine. So if there's no questions, friends at home, you are free to leave me. Please take your 2 quizzes and then check your email for everything else you have to do today. I sent you a message. I'll see you all later. Everyone here, you may begin.
So is there going to be any more live meets?
I do not think there's any more live today because math was whatchamacallit and science is just on your own. So there is not, I don't know about your reading RTI though. You would have to ask Mrs. Siddick. She might have live one today. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay. So long.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Maddie. Bye, Zuri. See you later. Have a good day.